Hey everybody, welcome back to the Live Ultralight podcast powered by Outdoor Vitals. Today we have one of your favorite episodes, which is a new product deep dive on a product called the Carbon Evo 50 backpack. We've got Brigham, as usual, on the podcast with me to discuss this, starting in the original design intent, what we've got built, kind of some stories and experiences around that, and then ultimately talking about the launch of this product. So Brigham, how are we doing today?
Doing pretty well.
Excited to be releasing this one?
Yeah. I enjoy backpacks and talking about them, working on them, using them. It's always a subject to talk about.
In the very beginning, when we first brought you onto the team, forever ago, it seemed like backpacks was like your biggest passion in designing. And I haven't asked you that in a long time because we have such a wide aspect of things, but does it remain one of your favorite or the favorite?
I would say it's definitely probably one of the, sometimes, it might like go up or down a ranking, from month to month, but it's probably top 2, top 3 for sure. I like them. It's a product. It's a piece of gear that is like totally involved with the body, and you can't escape that. You can't go backpacking without putting your gear in something, and you spend a lot of time, probably more time in the backpack than you do in bed. Like,
well, on the long trips,
on long trips, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You might have that thing on 10, maybe hours a day.
Yeah, more a little bit slower pace trip, more relaxed, maybe not, but still, it's. So I like that aspect, and enjoy them.
Well, we've really designed a pack, entirely new pack with the Carbon Evo. Of course, we've got some of our historic, DNA in this pack, but when we set out to talk about designing a new pack, we were able to use some of our historic information from like our CS40, feedback that we've got from that, things that we really, really enjoyed with that pack, and some things that we could tweak and change, as well as just make a new and better pack. But I would say that, as per the usual with Outdoor Vitals, we put a lot of energy and emphasis on load carry and things that we've developed there. And we really took that and took it just another step farther in terms of comfort was kind of from the onset. But going back to the original design intent of this pack, what do you remember as far as like what we laid out on paper and what we laid out in thought of what we wanted to design from day one? Really it was to build on and improve and essentially like evolve like what the CS40 was, what it did, but just input new materials in terms of an overall improvement, new materials, improve how it carried the load, and improve what we saw from user feedback and what we would just call like kind of user research. Just getting to know how people are using or choosing not to use certain things. And so it just made a lot of sense to look at that CS40 platform and say, and to build on that to make just a better backpack, kind of across all areas, whether that's, better materials in some areas, better integration and involvement with the body, the human form, how it supports the load, even improving like the value proposition, like the value, what you get, when you pay for the backpack, improving a broader applicability in terms of capacity, just the volume of the pack. Really implementing a lot of feedback and what we were seeing and hearing through conversations with a lot of different, backpackers and users. So, yeah. And maybe something to confront straight out of the gate would just be that we do plan to discontinue the CS40. And this is essentially that evolution of the CS40 that we're now calling the Carbon Evo 50. So some of those feedback points were, we had, and kind of dealing with majorities here, but we had more people wanting the CS40 in a little bit bigger size. They just really struggled to get into that, about 40 beater capacity. And so we did kind of touch that. We built on some of those really prominent, good aspects of that CS40 with the carbon frame. So we'll get into talks of that. But then just like with anything, there's really no design out there that you're not looking at different trade-offs and things in terms of whether that be in price or performance, any of those categories. And so we did go through and also reanalyze all the fabrics on the backpack and foams and everything, right? So we started this project off, I don't even know. I should have looked back at photos and stuff, but I feel like 2+ years ago, at least.
For sure.
Trying to think of when I was taking out some of these newer, because we went through a pile of prototypes. I've actually gifted away more and more of them recently that we've got closer to the end of this project. But something that's been over 2 years in development. Maybe walk me through some of those early prototypes and what we were going for. What did we start? That was changing out of the gate.
Interesting. Right from the beginning, some of the things that I started like working on, or oftentimes it's almost like the scientific method. It's like a hypothesis of like, what if we did this, kind of this one isolated improvement, put that in a prototype and then use it, and that started very early on. And I think the first thing was probably the back panel, and like just the back panel. I won't even say the full suspension system yet. Just the back panel, kind of changing some foam placement, different cutouts, and then
we went through a bunch of different cutting of the foam.
Yeah, like where the kind of where the heat dissipation voids are and things like that, and then even like some of the thicknesses of some of the back panels, and then at some point, maybe been simultaneously at some point after a couple iterations of that, started testing. Actually, like some of the earlier ones were using either lighter or heavier weight ultra fabrics back then. Like even when we were doing these prototypes, because we hear about, we'll get like from Challenge, they would talk to us and say like, we've got this updated version of this fabric or a new fabric. You want to try it? So we'd get some yardage, make a couple backpacks and try that out. So that kind of was, rolled into the mix of different things to test and prototype. And then, I think kind of, it was just like the slow evolution of like, use it, test it, analyze it. And then, throw in another variable. And then at some point, it really kind of became a more stronger focus on upgrading the suspension and as a whole. So, because I can't speak for you in terms of memory, but like, one of the things I saw is like, I kind of like these things that we're doing with the back panel. What else could we do? And because this is comfortable, I like it better than the CS40. And so then started tweaking everything that was contacting the body. So not just the foam, not just the back panel, but now starting to reshape the back panel foam. And then the back panel lumbar and hip belt interface and the contact there, and started playing with different things there. And just, it was like every time we would try something, we'd kind of see like, oh, this actually feels better than whether it's, better than the CS40 or better than the previous prototype. And just let that play itself out. And then that actually kind of became like almost its own project of what would eventually become our Carbon Flex suspension.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was actually a great test bed because we're also developing the updated shadow light.
Mm-hmm.
And so became a test bed for the Carbon Flex suspension, knowing that we intended to release the shadow light next. And so we were able to almost like get double testing time.
I think that's why it's so hard to
suspension.
think back to like testing this, because we were running very similar packs, but really we spent years and years just refining that Carbon Flex suspension system.
Yeah. And and then like that became a major focus. And then at some point, you know, after testing some of those, I'd say newer ultra fabrics and things like that, and then talking to more people, for example, like we get a lot out of going to like PCT days and talking to a lot of these people that, you know, are actually, they're coming through on their through hike, or they are just there for the event because they did the, you know, the trail the week or the year before or something. But, you know, just so being able to get face to face with like hundreds of people, you know, that were really kind of targeted use case and things like that. And then look at some of our other previous purchasers of other backpacks and just kind of look at fabrics, for example. Like where's fabric wearing out on this backpack that's done the CDT, you know, or the PCT, and then just looking at that. And yeah, at some point we really kind of made a complete decision that there really wasn't any reason to continue pursuing like the ultra fabric direction, because we just really felt like we could put, like you mentioned trade-offs, we could take we kind of shift things around a little bit, add some benefit in other areas without really giving up a realistic anything. Meaning, so we saw that the Spectra grid, so that's an ultra fiber ripstop with aerobic nylon in between, saw that is like way more than adequately durable, and we use different weights of that as well. So basically we're seeing that this stuff is not what's wearing out, you know, on a pack. Like, you know, an estimate would be like we're seeing packs with 2,000 and 3,000 miles on them that could go another 3,000 or 4,000 miles, you know, before, you know, and it would be a guess that maybe that would give out at some point. So it just didn't make sense to put that much essentially money into a really expensive fabric that just did not bring enough value to the overall package. So we kind of made that commitment to move forward with, you know, just a Spectra Grid backpack platform. So
yeah, which I mean, just to highlight that a little bit more is, you know, we're looking at packs that have gone all these miles, and we have used this fabric in the shadow light since 2020 or something like that. And the durability on it is exceptional, right? So it's aerobic nylon, so high quality nylon that we're then placing that grid, the ripstop in it. The grid is the same thing as your UWH and PE fabric, right? So it's just that incredibly durable fabric, but we don't have to use the entire fabric in that same material. We can use a lot less of it and still get the benefits of it, and bring some of those costs back down. And there just really wasn't. I mean, we have a pack in Ultra and we have a pack in this, and we ourselves didn't see the major benefit to it. I think sometimes something can get labeled as like this is the number one thing, and so like that's all that's available. But I think slowing down enough to like really analyze, like, is this what I need? Is this not what I need? I definitely though would just say like we're landing in between these two. There are fabrics out there that are just nylon, and there are fabrics out there that are just, ultra style fabrics, and we're really landing in between those in terms of function and durability and things like that. Because, I have seen, in fact, the one that comes to mind would be a really old backpack at this point, but it was just nylon, and like it does not wear the same as this fabric in this pack. But we also, with that, took and we looked at, okay, well, is there areas of the pack that are wearing out? And there was areas of the pack that were wearing out, namely in the mesh. The mesh was absolutely the most susceptible area to rips, tears, things like that. I've seen it personally. We've saw it in packs that were coming back. And so that's an area where we flipped it around and put in a more durable mesh. So we went with that ultra stretch mesh, which is incredibly, incredibly durable. And that overall will lift the entire package, right? Because it's any product is only as strong as its weakest link. And that in previous models was the weakest link. I've seen people back up into really sharp sticks and poke holes in it. I've seen people, throw a tent stake in there and catch it wrong or something like that, and they can go through that mesh. That will no longer be an issue at all.
Yeah.
With the ultra stretch mesh that we did put onto the pack.
Yeah, and that, I mean, to take that even further, and because everything you just said was exactly part of the thought process of making those decisions, but also, it didn't like come from nowhere. Our Skyline Fast Pack, we essentially use ultra stretch as armor on that Fast Pack. So like the whole entire lower third around that backpack is basically encapsulated in ultra stretch, and it like absolutely does that job of just,
it is durable stuff,
being a stretch woven fabric that you can cram stuff into and just not failing, not wearing out, not tearing, ripping holes in it. And so, we basically had a solution already to the stretch mesh problem. And so it was just a matter of like saying, okay, yeah, we've seen enough to make that decision that, yeah, we're going to put a little bit heavier, massively more durable fabric where it actually matters.
Yep. To come back though to the flex frame, carbon flex frame and suspension system, there was some awesome improvements I would say we did there. Obviously with the CS40, we fell in love with the carbon frame. Initially, we went to a carbon frame to reduce weight. And we did. We cut the weight about in half, close to half of what an aluminum frame is, by moving it to the carbon. But as we backpacked more and more with the prototypes and then the CS40 when it came out, we fell in love with the feeling of a carbon frame over an aluminum frame. When we would go from the CS40 to the original Shadowlight that had the aluminum frame, to me, it just felt like so much more of a harsh ride. It doesn't, absorb as much. It doesn't bend and flex as much. And so it just felt so much more aggressive the second you put it on your back, more rigid. And so we did fall in love with that frame aspect. And so we wanted to keep that going forward. And I mean, we've talked about this before. We'll always talk about this again, I'm sure. But the carbon frame is very expensive. It is by far the most expensive part of this. There's good reason, I would say, why other manufacturers don't use carbon. It's just quite simply somewhere in the ballpark of about 10 times more expensive than an aluminum frame.
And that's like, you can break that down into subcomponents and it's just still more expensive. So it's not just the material. It's just not what we pay the supplier for the end product. It's like to develop the stays that we want, like as expensive. Like, yeah. And that's probably actually like gram for gram. Like that's probably the most expensive part, is the upfront cost of developing
carbon,
the carbon fiber product.
Yeah, we've got to put essentially tens of thousands of dollars into molds and things like that that we have to front before we produce stays at all, our frames at all. So we are putting our money where our mouth is on this one. It is very expensive to do this, and it is, for those of you that have not yet used a carbon frame, specifically our carbon frame, this, like, once you do, you'll for sure notice that difference in ride quality and comfort. Are there good aluminum frames out there? Yes, our old aluminum frame was a good aluminum frame, and we put a lot of research and development into that. But the feel and the comfort, they're just different. They're just very, very different. And I think if you are an avid backpacker, someone who's putting time into a pack, you will notice that difference very quickly and really love that carbon frame. So we wanted to keep that carbon frame, and we talked about messing around with foams and different things. But one area that I think we really drastically improved, that you'll notice version to version, is in our hip belt. Actually rebuilt and kind of restructured that hip belt so that it is able to make more comfortable and just more contact in general with the hips on the body. Regardless if you're skinnier set, wider set, it's going to allow more of a conformed fit around the body. It'll create less slippage and just more comfort, less potential hot spots, less potential gaps or anything like that. And it's just incredibly, incredibly comfortable. And it makes it so that the difference, even from our great carrying CS40 to this Carbon Evo 50 frame, which is now both on this pack and the Shadowlight, is remarkable. You may see some ads or different things, but one story in particular where I really got to taste that was I was actually doing a pack rafting trip in the Grand Canyon. I did 38-ish plus or minus miles of backpacking, but I was carrying I averaged about 40 pounds worth of weight in my pack between water carries and things. So an ultralight pack carrying 40 pounds, and those two usually don't go great together when you've got, a sub 2 pound backpack carrying another 38 pounds of gear in it. And I was just blown away at how comfortable it was. And specifically the changes that were made, that hip belt, all of these areas that allow you to just take that weight, set up the pack, and really pulse majority of the weight off of your shoulders, put it down on your hips. Cause one of the days I had to do a 20-mile day through some pretty rough country, most of it off trail, cause it's in this really back wildernessy area of the Grand Canyon where there's not really, like, the trail is kind of non-existent in areas. And climbing up, I had to do a lot of scrambling, some really hairy scrambling down in the canyons, and it was an amazing trip to feel the differences that were made into this pack. So overall, though, we changed that hip belt up. We did slightly adjust some things in the frame areas. We beefed up and changed up, and spent a lot of time in the back foam panel. And that's something too that I don't want to just gloss over either, is that back foam panel. It is really comfortable. Now, when you're talking about ultralight packs, again, sub 2 pound backpacks, or anything in that ballpark, there's a lot of packs that your back is going straight against a waterproof fabric. In this pack, you will have mesh and then foam, and then the waterproof fabric. And so you have all this space to dissipate sweat, for sweat to push away from the body and move out, as well as just bring in that ventilation. For us, in the way that our philosophy, I guess you could say, is such that we really like to carry that weight as close to our back as we possibly can. But we also don't want the back of the backpack, jabbing things into our back. We don't want sweat just like I don't know. I just picture like a trash bag, being put against your back. That's kind of what those those waterproof, non-breathable fabrics really are. It's just like putting a layer of plastic against your back. Like, you don't want that. The sweat, the heat, the friction, all those things really develop to a much higher level. So we build our frames, we build our back panels in a way that we can carry the weight really close to the body for maximum load carry comfort. But we still have that foam and that mesh in there to help with both venting and sweat dissipation and avoiding any kind of hot spots. But anything else you want to mention, just kind of with that back panel itself? Like I say, we did mess around with the foams quite a bit and different ways of cutting it and venting it. Yeah. Super happy with the way that those all turned out. But
yeah, I mean, it was all worth all the testing and time to just like incrementally just let that suspension turn into what it is. And yeah, it's been really good. Really, it was like looking back, I'm really glad that's something we focused on. And it's nice because it can kind of standardize between like our backpack packs, like how it's going to feel. Like that's just how it feels, and it's, universal between, our two backpacking packs, which kind of eliminates a variable of decision or indecision, in terms of they have the same load carrying capability, comfort, stability, and all of those things. And so, it turned out well. I'm happy with where we're at with that.
Yeah. All right. So we've covered the Carbon Flex frame. We talked about the two major fabrics in this pack.
Yeah.
Walk us through some of these other aspects, whichever one's out at you next.
Yeah, capacity. That was a good one to make that call and to just realize. We talked because I really liked the 40 liter capacity of the CS40 for just like really dialed in trips, but I am not everyone else, and no one person is, the target group, right? So, really just observing, talking to a lot of people, getting feedback, whether that's incoming emails, or face-to-face, at events, realizing that we felt like we could suit people's needs better, or suit more people's needs that were still like really dialed in long distance or ultralight backpackers with just more capacity. We really saw that was a much more in demand and usable capacity range, like somewhere 50 to 60 liters of total capacity. Well,
there was a couple things there. I mean, one, just back to that, I think it does give you a lot more flexibility to use the pack. Yes, we took our CS40s on 5-day, 100-mile backpacking trips. We had dialed-in gear, certain times of season. Sometimes we were even repackaging food to remove some of the bulk out of things, and we could do it, absolutely, go on a full 5-day trip. But growing that capacity allowed us to just be more flexible, be more forgiving, and you're not really adding much weight in terms of the overall pack, but you are just creating more opportunity to use that pack for a bigger range of people. I would say that something around the 50, 55 liter mark is probably the most picked and used pack. I don't have our own data, but from what I'm kind of inferring out there. And then we also had decided to discontinue the 45 liter Shadow Light because we did have, sales and data on that. And then by moving this pack up, it kind of gave us that opportunity to cover both of these bases just a little bit more, and pull the 45 out of the lineup per se. So
yeah,
that was a while ago. In fact, I just barely remembered that aspect of this whole equation. But yeah, the capacity grew. So what is the current capacity of this pack? Because, for us, we don't I don't know how to say this, but we don't maximize every inch of the pack and list that as our capacities on our main listings.
We'll just
give us what the actual capacity is of this pack.
Yeah, I mean, we're like our claimed on paper, what we're saying our total capacity is 58 liters. Like I don't count, every. We don't count like every possible thing that you could count, but the main compartment, with the roll top rolled down 4 times. So essentially that comes out to about, it's just a realistic use case because I don't want to say to the top seam of the bag, because most people, you really can't like roll precisely down to the top seam and close it up and say, okay, well, that's it. But the main compartment, what I call the main compartment measurement, is we roll the roll top down 4 times and close it. That's 47 liters. And then a very conservative 11 liters of external capacity. So the water bottle pockets are each more than 2 liters on each side. Each hip belt pocket's a liter, and our stretch pocket it's very large. Like our stretch mesh pocket that's now ultra stretch, it's very large. It's almost the top edge of the stretch pocket is only maybe 1.5 or 2 inches below the top of the backpack. If you look at some other backpacks out there, when you see them stuffed full, and then the stretch pocket looks like it's maybe even half the height of the backpack, and it just seems like it's so much wasted space. That's such a usable pocket for like the distance backpacker and the ultralight backpacker. It's volumized, so we put these side panels on the stretch pocket that actually add legitimate depth to the stretch pocket, rather than just a stretch pocket that when it's fully relaxed, it just smashes flat up and flush against the back of the backpack. There's about 1.5 inches of outward volume built into the sides of the stretch pocket, so that you're starting with a volumized capacity right there. And then so that pocket is like well over 5 liters. So you can see where we end up with way more than 11 liters of external storage, but we don't want to overstate. We would rather say it's 58 liters, but I mean, you can put your lunch in the hip belt pockets. And
I do.
Water filter and a cell phone.
Like 500 calories in there usually.
And then, yeah.
Well, let's talk about that back volumized pocket, for instance. When you have the less durable meshes that we've experimented with ourselves, sometimes you do get an overall greater percentage of stretch. Like if 100% is relaxed, you can pull it to 200% or something like this.
Yeah.
You can get a more overall stretch. However, sometimes the bounce back isn't there. It relaxes over time, gets floppy and loose. And then obviously we already talked about the main thing is the durability. Like you can poke a hole through some of these meshes accidentally. So we went to the Ultra Mesh. And with that, though, you don't get quite as much stretch in the fabric. There's still a lot of stretch in it for sure, but not quite as much. And so as we were utilizing that back pocket, Brigham, took the time to volumize that pocket so that even though it doesn't have quite as much overall stretch as a lower durability mesh might, we still have the same capacity in that pocket. We still have a lot of stretch, and it's also volumized. I think, though, to also go back and kind of recap on the way that the pocket is designed, I love that about our backpack because having a very tall pocket often means that when you shove things into it, you don't have to have them shooting off the back of your backpack. There are certain backpacks out there that I can spot from hundreds of yards away when I see backpackers on the trail because they can stuff so much stuff into the little mesh pocket and it shoots like straight off of their back, which having weight far away from the middle center of your back is not the optimal way to carry. It's bulky, but it really kind of gives you that feeling of like getting pulled over backwards. And so having a taller pocket like this allows you to put, let's say, the same amount of stuff in it, but it's carrying tight against the pack and a much more load carry positive way versus having stuff that's pulling you over backwards. Yeah. If you can try to visualize that.
Yeah. I mean, and it's all designed to work all together as one piece, right? So the side profile of the main bag is a tapered curve at the bottom. So the farther down towards the lumbar it gets, the pack gets from a side profile, it gets more narrow, but it curves as well. So it cannot sag. So even if you pack your pack horribly and you just put all the heaviest stuff right at the bottom, the side profile of the bag, like physically prevents the bag from sagging, meaning the contents in the bag cannot sit lower than the bottom edge of the bag because of that curvature. And that curvature is built in to kind of match the stretch pocket as it comes up. And so there's kind of a maximum width of the backpack, and then it actually tapers down a little bit towards the top, so that it helps, again, kind of self-contain the load and prevent too much outward extension of the backpack away from our back. And that really just helps stabilize the load, helps you feel like there's not weight right at shoulder level that's trying to fall off backwards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think of the best way to like explain this in words, right? It's like if you took the letter, like a capital letter U, and you cut it in half and you put a line right down the middle of that, like that's where your back would go. And then if you were to fill that with contents, right, as it gets to the bottom of that U comes and connects to the back. And so it's going to push everything towards your back as it gets to the bottom of the pack. And that's what we're doing. We've cut and curved that. Now, some packs are perfectly square. They're just like this rectangle, which means that as you stuff the pack full, it can sit all the way at the bottom and away from your butt, away from your low back area. And that's an area that's not an optimal carry position, for load, comfort, and carry. But it also, kind of like you just mentioned, like if you pack the bag with less stuff, that's where the stuff's all going to go sit. It's all going to slide away from the body and fall back over there. Or it's going to get really sloppy and loose, and you're going to be using every compression strap on the bag to try to prevent that. Whereas ours is really like this thoughtless way, like you don't have to, like, yes, we encourage you to pack the bag a certain way, but it's so much more thoughtless in terms of like compression straps. We do have compression straps on this, but rarely, if ever, do I feel like we end up using them because the pack kind of self-loads and self-packs itself very, very, very comfortably. So yes, in terms of a curved bottom panel, we've kind of used the terms of self-compressing bottom panel. Between that, the pocket itself, the layout of the pocket, the frame, so much of this pack goes into the comfort of that load carry. So pocketing wise and capacity wise, we are, claiming about 58 liters of capacity. We want to far exceed the 50 liters. That's typically how we've done things here, is that really the main compartment is about 50 liters is kind of what we target. And then the pocketing on the outside is extra. So this pack will be extremely useful to many of you, whether you're doing through hikes and, going really far distances and packing, from every extent of that to where maybe you're getting cold on the start and the finish, but hot in the summers, whether you're someone who's just not quite to the ultralight level and you pack in bulky or extras. If you're like me and you take kids out sometimes and you need that extra capacity, it's going to be a pack that can work for so many different instances. It's really a great sweet spot for capacities. So,
yeah.
Okay. Man, what have we not touched? I guess let's talk about the side compression real quick.
Yeah, there's basically kind of a 3-point compression cord with a tensioner on each side. Really easy to use. And the point with the 3-point compression is so that, and by 3-point, I mean there's an anchor point towards the top of the side of the backpack, and then there's an anchor point in the middle back towards the stretch pocket seam of the backpack, and then it goes back again to the lower kind of lumbar area of the backpack. So that cord kind of makes a sideways triangle. So putting longer items, whether if there's, if you've got tent poles that you want to route and contain with the compression cords. You just kind of set them down behind the cords so they drop down and rest into the water bottle pocket. Other things, I mean, I don't think I put my snow shovel in the back in the stretch pocket. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty basic feature. Use it however makes sense to you, but it's simple to use.
We also changed up the top strap on this. Based on some feedback. So what do we do there?
So the top strap is a V. So there's 2 anchor points on the outermost part of the backpack. So if you're wearing the backpack, the far back seam of the main bag, it's sewn into 2 points there, and it comes together at one point right behind your neck with a buckle, and then there's a webbing tensioner to give it more slack or tighten it up. It's got a pretty good length to it. The idea was just for if people did need to put a bear canister up there. But yeah, it definitely stabilizes things better. Even like a lot of us will put our little 1/8" foam pads at the top. Sometimes
chairs have gone up there.
Chairs with the pad up there, and it just helps stabilize that, make it shift around.
It's got a little bit more capacity in terms of length of the cord. Mm-hmm. We have a very generous amount of cord up there, so putting more things on the top of the pack is easier. Or if you've got really bulky items, there's just more length to that cable or that cord now.
Yeah,
cord strap. Let's go strap.
Yeah, it is webbing. Yeah, it's webbing.
Okay. Did we miss anything going over?
I mean, one thing honestly, we already talked about the Carbon Flex suspension, but specifically with the hip pockets, like I just enjoyed making those zippers function better.
Yes. The zippers do function significantly better. Even when I was just in here filming some other stuff recently, and with 0 things in that pocket, I could just easily run those zippers.
One hand without looking, doesn't require attention, which is really nice. And honestly, a lot of that just came from doing like longer hikes, like some of the Grand Canyon hikes we've done, where I've taken that pack. Because on those hikes,
constantly,
we're trying to do like either 50 or 100 miles in a day or in 2 days. And so like the name of the game is staging your nutrition and your hydration. And so like
quick access,
just having food that you can constantly shovel in is like, it's huge. It's like the difference between doing it and not doing it. And so just having food, and then even I keep on backpacking trips, I keep my filter in my left pocket. So I don't ever have to take my backpack off to fill up my 2 liters of water at water stops.
Yeah, what I typically do is I'll have sunscreen, chapstick, headlamp, and sometimes I'll put water filter in there, and that's on one pocket, and that is nowhere near full.
No.
No. And then on the other side, I usually just cram that full of food. So bars, gummies. I like to keep my salt capsules there. I like to keep my drink mixes there. And so just have complete access to those. Now we do sell, kind of an accessory that if you want them, you can add the shoulder pocket, onto these packs really easily. I pretty much only put my phone in the shoulder pocket. Everything else, I just zip into my hip belt pocket.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to have my phone in a pocket. But I have also zipped my phone a lot of times into my hip belt pocket. I've got actually more of the larger size phone, and I can zip it in there just fine as well. So got lots of options for quick access. I was just jokingly thinking, but we should just start calling our pockets like 500 calorie pockets. That's like, because we
put it
many times, like I have put at least 500 calories worth of food into those pockets, which is a full meal.
A good way of tracking. If you're trying to do like an intense effort, it's actually a useful tool in tracking your input, your intake. Because like sometimes it's like that's not where you want to put your mental energy. Is just keeping track of what you've done. So it's like, man, if I know that between water stops or whatever, like I can just say like, oh, I just put 350 calories in that hip belt pocket. So between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m., I consumed 350 calories. Or, you know, it's nice to just have, like you said, the salt caplets, and just to kind of every day take account of how many caplets are in there. And while you're walking, you can just take your little baggie out, count your caplets, and you know what you've put in your body. So yeah, it's small things, but
one last thing. We've done this on all of our packs, but I feel like we did refine it even more. But the water bottle pocket, we put on a diagonal cut. So in other words, farther away from your body, it's higher in the back, and it drops down and lower as it comes towards your back. We also position these pockets really low on the pack, as low as we can get them. And so it makes it so much easier to grab a water bottle while the pack is on your bag. While the pack is on your back. That's very much by design. But with putting that seam and that cut in there, holds those water bottles in place.
And then,
a lot better. Not better. I mean, it's not like we're dropping them, but
it holds them better for certain things. And that's because they were already angled. Like even all our packs, the water bottle pockets have already been angled. But just from use and feedback, sometimes when people stop or they sit down, just that when they're the pack kind of like
the bottom is hitting the ground.
The bottom hits a log or the ground. It kind of lifts the shoulder straps up and basically creates a little bit of slackness in the bag. Or somebody leans back. There was sometimes it would happen where a water bottle would fall out the back, like kind of fall backwards out of the pocket. So yeah, increasing the height of the pocket towards the rear, that doesn't make it any easier to grab. It doesn't make that more accessible. It just prevents it from falling out. So yeah.
And then I think we also increased the capacity over like the CS40 just a little bit so that it's easier to have 2 1-liter sized smart water bottles in each side pocket. Which is super helpful.
They're bigger, more volume. The elasticized opening has been kind of modified to contain a little bit better, but also stretch more. And then I would just say like with the water bottles, that's an individual thing. We're not saying that's what you're supposed to do, but you can do it easier now. Like for example, I only ever keep 1 bottle in each pocket. Some people like to put 2. It's just easier to put 2 in now.
Yeah. So I think that brings us all the way to kind of talking about price and just what we've wrapped everything together with.
Go over sizing real quick.
Yeah.
Because the original like the CS40, which this is replacing, we had 3 hip belt sizes, small, medium, large. We now have 5.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got extra small through extra large. And I'll say like, you got to be really, really small to need an extra small. Like even nice ladies,
absolutely tiny.
There's some ladies that have been testing some small packs, and like even they couldn't even the extra small was too small for these ladies. I was pretty surprised. They were like this fit backpackers.
Yeah.
So
those kinds of things are things that when you see them on our site and you think you need them, you should buy them because we can't guarantee us keeping those in stock very well because there's minimums in terms of us what we order, and that's such a fringe tiny group of people that need something that small that we don't order them on every order.
Yeah.
But yeah, extra small all the way to an extra large hip belt now.
Yep.
Same 3 size torso, small, medium, large.
Yeah.
And then launching in the one color. We did keep it with the white color. However, we did a black ripstop on it, so it does give it a darker tone.
And the bottom of the backpack is black, heavier fabric, and the bottom of the water bottle pockets. So it's I'd say 65-70% of the bag is the 100D, 200D ripstop Spectra. That's white with black ripstop, and then the bottom panel and the water bottle pocket bottoms are the 200D, 400D Spectra fabric, and that's black. And then the suspension is black.
Yep. Yeah. So to try to explain, I guess, where this all comes together at is we were able to bring down the price point a little bit from the CS40 by taking away some of the ultra fabric aspect of it and bringing in ultra stretch mesh and the Robic Spectra fabric, which was really helpful. However, we still have a extremely expensive carbon frame in this thing. But this is really happy with where the price is at, especially with everything else going on in the greater economy right now in the USA. And so we're going to bring this pack out at $280. Really excited about that. I think it will be a phenomenal pack. It puts us right there at a very approachable price point, I think, still for packs. But you're getting some major upgrades in this pack when it comes to that suspension system. And I think we know this pack can last you thousands and thousands and thousands of miles. We've seen it over the last 6 years of producing packs with this exact fabric in it. And we've just continued to make this pack better, more durable, more refined, more comfortable, more usable, all the things, right? We're just always here to continually improve our best work year after year after year. So super excited about the pack. Maybe let's take just a quick second to talk about, because we talked about some of the similarities in the Shadowlight pack. Mm-hmm. So just really quick touching on some of the differences. They actually utilize a lot of the same fabrics, same frames, same suspension systems. So realistically, if someone was to ask me which pack should I get, I'm pretty much just going with what pocket configuration and capacity are you really gravitating towards. Obviously, the Carbon Evo pack is a little bit more streamlined. It's a little bit more of that traditional long distance backpacker look. I mean, what would you add to that? Is there any difference in width of the pack, side to side width?
Side to side, it's the same. Okay. I mean, literally the what contacts your body, that side of the backpack is identical. It's just the Shadowlight is. So yeah, I think the two biggest things are what does your kit look like, or what seasons do you intend to frequent the most? So if you do shoulder season and or winter backpacking a lot, the Shadowlight has 15 liters more volume. It's significantly bigger. Well, 10 liters more volume. It's significantly bigger. It's almost like I have a hard time even using I have a hard time filling the Shadowlight up with. It doesn't matter what the trip. It doesn't matter how many days. It doesn't matter if it's the middle of winter in the mountains. I have a hard time using all the capacity. So that's kind of a big one.
I have a few examples of that just in the past year, right? We just went on a winter backpacking trip. I took an 8-person teepee and a titanium stove, all in the Shadowlight
stove. Yeah.
Plus winter gear and stuff. I did that Grand Canyon hike that I talked about where I was in the backcountry of the Grand Canyon, had a full pack raft, 13 pounds worth of pack raft, paddles, gear, life preserver. I did that in the Shadowlight. That was pretty full. That was a pretty full pack. And I took it on the Colorado Trail last year, and most of that trip I had the side compression stuff done on the Shadowlight because it was, I don't want to say it was too big of a pack, but I had extra room in the pack, I guess you would say, for a 6-day, 140-mile, no resupply trip. It's a good size backpack, for sure.
And I say, with the seasonality thing, that's the way I like to look at it, because that means you need more bulk. So that means like a down sleeping bag for the wintertime is bulkier than a down sleeping bag for the summertime. So just that you're adding more volume, you're adding some more significant puffy, and maybe have 1 or 2 extra layers. So that volume, it's kind of about the volume and the capacity. It's not about the weight. They're going to carry the weight the same for the most part in terms of the suspension. So what type of seasons and conditions are you backpacking in, and or do you are you an organization person? Are you an access person? The reality is there's just certain types of people. Doesn't matter how minimalist they are. Some people still like, some access or extra bits of organization. And just as equally, there's people that just absolutely don't care for it. They don't want it. And that's kind of the other differentiating decision-making factor is, are you dialed in? Are you streamlined? Are you just somebody that just wants to simplify the pack as much as possible, not, separate what goes where? You pack your pack the same way every time. You know exactly what goes in what order. Those would be kind of like the two things that I would focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. Size and access. The last minor thing I would maybe just throw in here, and this is really, I don't know if this is based in as much fact as or not, but it does seem like for someone as like big as me, right? I'm like 6'2", bigger framed, right? I can wear the shadow light and have kind of that extra size, capacity, pocketing, and it really doesn't bother me. But I've seen other people that are maybe a smaller framed person, and they kind of enjoy, I think, or it almost seems like it fits them a little bit better just to have that smaller capacity size and not maybe have those upper side pockets in terms of like bulk and fitting on their body. So I would say if you're a smaller frame person, you can consider that. Obviously, the bags do kind of grow and scale a little bit with the different, especially as you get into that small torso backpack. The pack will shrink up just a little bit in terms of you'll lose a little bit of capacity as we go to that smaller frame and things like that. But like Derek on our team, I think he's always going to gravitate towards the Carbon Evo backpack. Whereas sometimes I do go with the shadow light, but I like the organization. I like the zipper. I'll definitely be using both packs. But I'm just saying like that's a preference thing. Maybe I've seen just in the field with people that have used these packs, but
yeah, for sure.
But overall, I think both these packs have their place. Super excited to be releasing this Carbon Evo 50. So many great developments and new things have gone into this pack. I really think that this is a pack that the more we get these packs into people's hands, we're just going to see so much positive feedback from people that are actually on the trail using the pack in terms of that comfort. We've already had, tons of it from the CS40. And this is really going to raise the bar in terms of ultralight backpacking comfort. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find anything more comfortable out there for sub 2 pounds. This pack does come in at about 30 ounces in weight. So we're under that 2 pound mark, which is always a goal for us. But man, it sure offers a lot in terms of comfort and capacity for being sub 2 pounds. Okay. Anything else that I missed?
I don't think so. I think we covered everything, at least broad stroke on the pack. So
yeah, super excited to be releasing another pack. Excited to hear what you guys think of this pack. If you would leave comments, if you want to leave comments, go to YouTube to leave those comments specifically on this episode and let us know what you think of some of the design things that have gone into this. This pack is now available as of the time of this recording, so you can jump over to the website and look at it in more detail and photos and videos of the pack itself. But appreciate you guys listening in. It's always fun to go get into the nitty gritty of designing and the stories and all of the thought processes that go into designing the pack. Make sure you like and subscribe the episode and the podcast, and we'll see you guys in the next one.